Mike Davis is here. He's the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. Sir, good to have you back with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so the left is rejoicing over this today, but as far as I can see it, they just suffered a humiliating defeat. Juan Merchan imposed no punishment on President Trump.
Yeah, I would say to these Democrats who are celebrating today, I hope you have a good time for the next 10 days, because on January 20th at noon, President Trump is going to get sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. He will appoint his acting attorney general on day one, and I think there is going to be serious accountability for this unprecedented republic-ending lawfare in this country at every level, going back to Crossfire Hurricane, where our intel agencies and law enforcement have been politicized and weaponized against Trump. His top aides, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, who went to prison, his supporters on January 6th, who were politically persecuted under the Supreme Court's Fisher decision last June, parents outraged by gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes in high school bathrooms, Christians praying at abortion clinics, including a 75-year-old Christian who went to prison thanks to the Biden Justice Department. And while this Biden Justice Department gives amnesty to Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, every scumbag Biden, BLM, Antifa, Hamas, there is going to be severe legal, political, and financial consequences come January 20th at noon. I'm going to make damn sure that happens in my private citizen role running the Article 3 project when I exercise my God-given rights to speak and to redress government, and I'm going to push every day for a criminal probe under 18 U.S.C. Section 241, conspiracy against rights, a very serious federal civil rights felony. And it's going to apply to all these lawyers, all these agents, all these witnesses, all these judges, and other co-conspirators who engaged in this republic-ending lawfare against Trump. And that includes people like Andrew Weissman on the outside, and Juan Merchan, and Tish James, and Alvin Bragg, and Matthew Colangelo, and Fannie Willis, and Nathan Wade. I would say to these operatives, lawyer up. Justice is coming.
You mentioned the conspiracy against rights law. Additionally, we just had one of our callers, a legal-minded caller, buzz in just before ahead of our segment and mentioned to us 18 U.S. Code Section 595, which prohibits government employees, federal employees, from using their powers to interfere in a federal election. Boy, it does seem like a lot of that has been happening, Mike Davis.
Yeah, it's so blatant. Like, let's just look at what happened in New York today. You have 34 felony counts for the non-felony of a businessman settling a nuisance claim and putting it in his private books as a legal expense with a non-disclosure agreement. Hush money, they call it. I've been a lawyer for nearly 20 years. What the hell else would Trump have called it other than a legal expense? This is routine. I have settled these nuisance claims repeatedly in my legal career, and apparently I've been committing felonies under New York law under this bogus theory. Remember, the prior Manhattan DA, Cy Vance, the prior Manhattan DA, Cy Vance, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, a Democrat, the Federal Election Commission, and Alvin Bragg himself declined to bring these charges. After Alvin Bragg campaigned on getting Trump, it was Matthew Colangelo, getting deployed from the Biden Justice Department, the number 3 office, a senior political operative, to do this. And Biden's fingerprints are on all 4 of these criminal prosecutions, right? You had Biden's deputy White House counsel, Jonathan Sue, waive Trump's claim of executive privilege on behalf of Biden, which led to the Mar-a-Lago raid and the 2 Jack Smith indictments. You had Nathan Wade, Fannie Willis's dumb, unqualified boyfriend in Fulton County, Georgia, actually stupid enough to bill his time to Fulton County taxpayers, 16 hours, $250 an hour, $4,000 to Fulton County taxpayers for his 2 meetings with the Biden White House, including the White House counsel, before those indictments. Look, this is a criminal conspiracy. And so I hope it was cathartic for these Democrats today, but for Judge Merchan, this corrupt judge whose daughter is raising money off this case, requiring his recusal, I hope it was cathartic today for them to hear this third world Marxist hellhole judge announce his sentence of President Trump because accountability is coming in 10 days.
You know, Juan Merchan, in his remarks today, I played some of them earlier, indicated that he said, well, any other private citizen would be subjected to the penalties here, which struck me as insane because no other person has ever been charged with anything that looks like what President Trump was just charged with. This is the first time every legal expert I've talked to, including you, Mike Davis, has ever seen a case like this.
I want to say this very seriously to this Democrat Manhattan judge, Juan Merchan, lawyer up, buddy, because you have committed a very serious federal civil rights felony, conspiracy against rights, when you did not give President Trump his due process, when you put an illegal, unconstitutional gag order on President Trump. A gag order is supposed to protect a criminal defendant going through the process. It is not supposed to make the criminal defendant not be able to defend himself. So this judge put a gag order on Trump because Trump raised the recusal issue that Lauren Merchan, Judge Merchan's adult daughter, is raising money off of this case. Judge Merchan donated to Biden. Lauren Merchan was paid by Kamala. She's raising money off this case. She's made a lot of money off of this case. Look, I would say to him, look, we're in America. We're not in Colombia. We're not part of the cartels in Colombia. We don't. If you want to come to America, Judge Merchan, don't import your Marxist hellhole values. You come to America because you believe in America. You believe in due process. You believe in the First Amendment right to speak. And he violated Trump's constitutional rights during this process, so he better lawyer up.
Mike Davis, President Trump tried to stop this process this morning, this so-called sentencing. This morning, he sent this up in kind of a dual track. He was appealing up the New York court system, and he also sent an appeal to the United States Supreme Court, given the federal interests that are involved here, including presidential immunity. Last night, the Supreme Court, by a vote of 5-4, rejected President Trump's request. The four justices that stood with President Trump and said that they would have granted his request were Clarence Thomas, Sam Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh. But fascinatingly, interestingly, perhaps not surprisingly, Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts sided with the leftists on the court, which led to the sentencing this morning. What do you make of that?
So the five women voted against Trump. How does that not surprise you? Say to the Chief Justice Roberts, what are you possibly here? You just wrote the opinion in June that any president criminally prosecuted for his official acts. So how the hell can a former president be sentenced? If you can't be prosecuted, how can you be sentenced? And that's exactly what they did. They came up with some mealy-mouthed answer, and it set a horrifying precedent that some local hellhole prosecutor, local hellhole judge has the ability to sentence the president-elect of the United States 10 days before his inauguration and throw him in jail. Merchan did not rule out throwing Trump in jail. He said he probably wouldn't throw Trump in jail, but he didn't rule it out. And you have the Chief Justice, John Roberts, who wrote the presidential immunity decision, said, oh, no big deal. And Amy Coney Barrett, who's this rattled law professor with her head up her ass, what was she doing last night where she couldn't think? Was she knitting? What was possibly going on in Amy Coney Barrett's head last night that they think it's acceptable that this partisan, corrupt, dangerous judge in New York could have put the president in prison today, and they had no problem with that.
In their decision yesterday, as you point out, they wrote that, quote, the burden that the sentencing will impose on the president-elect's responsibilities is relatively insubstantial. Now, I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer, but my impression is that they're not supposed to be weighing the extent of the sentence, the severity of the sentence. They're supposed to rule on the underlying law, principle, and the Constitution, right?
That's exactly right. It's presidential immunity. The whole point of immunity is you're not brought before the process. How can you be immune from criminal prosecution, but How can you be immune from criminal prosecution but not criminal sentencing, which is worse, right? I mean, the idea that you're going to sentence someone and put him in jail, and you're going to weigh the burdens of that. This guy is the president-elect of the United States. He's starting his job as the president in 10 days, and he's distracted from his job picking his personnel and getting security briefings so he can go get lectured by this corrupt judge, so this corrupt judge's daughter can keep making millions of dollars off of this. And look, the Chief Justice and Amy Coney Barrett were an absolute disgrace in that decision.
And now we look ahead. You've mentioned now that we're just 10 days away from the incoming Trump presidency, that all of these people should lawyer up. What do you expect out of some of these top officials, especially the legal officials? Attorney General, potentially Pam Bondi, FBI Director, potentially Kash Patel. What's going to happen when they get into position?
Well, I hope it happens before they get confirmed. I hope that the acting people do this on day one. They need to open a criminal probe on all of this, because when you politicize and weaponize intel agencies and law enforcement to go after your political enemies for non-crimes, that is the very definition of conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241. We've talked about this for years. This goes all the way back to Crossfire Hurricane, Russian collusion hoax, and this has to be investigated. And this is an ongoing criminal conspiracy to cover up Crossfire Hurricane, Russian collusion hoax. They tried to bankrupt Trump. They tried to throw him in prison for the rest of his life in 4 different jurisdictions for non-crimes. They underfunded his Secret Service protection, and Joe Biden said to put a target on his head, almost getting him killed twice. They tried to take him off the ballots. That all failed. That all backfired. And you're welcome from the Article 3 Project, who turned lemons into lemonade and made this happen politically. And so I would say to these people who came after Trump, they came after the king and missed. And he's going to be back. He's going to be back on January 20th at noon. And I would be living in great fear if I were these Democrat operatives, because accountability is coming. And like I said, I'm going to make damn sure that happens as a private citizen from the Article 3 Project, exercising my First Amendment rights to be very vocally calling for these criminal probes and lobbying the hell out of these Justice Department officials to do it.
There he is, Mike Davis, no shrinking violet with the Article 3 Project. Sir, always good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us today, sir.